Hey friends, welcome back to the Do Cool Shit podcast. I am biased, but I think this is and I'm kind of sorry and I'm sorry to all the other guests that I've had so far, but this might be the most special one that I've had on the show because it's my mom. So I'm, I'll probably be calling you mom throughout the whole episode. But her name is Marcia. So
Either one works.
either one works.
Yep.
There's many other people in this world that call you mom who you're not their
Mama
mom.
Binder. Yeah. Yeah.
So
When you were little and in daycare, they used to call me Mrs. Merrill. Mrs. Merrill, can I come home with you?
that's so funny. I love that. So
Anyway.
welcome to the show. We've been talking about you coming on for a while, and I'm bet this will not be the last time you're
Well,
on.
well, let's see.
Okay, we'll see.
See how
We'll
it
see.
goes.
First, there's so much to say about you and what you've done. And we were talking earlier this morning about how you just have a lot of life experience and just from living life in general and how you live life in general. And you also are, I mean, I call you 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door retirement as a psychotherapist.
Yeah, I still definitely have some toes in the door. So
It's hard to leave, huh?
it is hard to leave when you really, when you like the people you work with and you see them either struggling and or making progress. Um, it is hard to leave. It is hard to leave. But I've cut back. I've cut way back, and I'm really kind of enjoying having a foot out and a foot in, I guess.
I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything
So
wrong with that at
yeah.
all.
So
Uh,
you said my life experience. I think yes, a lot of it is I've lived a lot of years, and it's a lot of life experience, but also a lot of the thoughts that I've had that we've had deep conversations about, or when I've tuned into one of your podcasts and I have like so much to say and I don't want to like overstep and all of that. A lot of that has to do with um, the work I've done with people, the work I've done on myself, and the work, the clinical work, and the work that I've watched other clinicians and been part of their therapeutic teams because I worked for many, many, many years in hospitals, not just in private practice. I worked in an inpatient psych hospital. I've worked in rehab hospitals. I've worked in geriatric settings. I've worked with kids. And when you're part of a team, which I love being part of a team, um, you really get to observe other people's skill sets and other people's brains, working. And you absorb a lot, so you learn from others as well as your own life experience.
well, I would hope so. I think that's the benefit of working with other people a lot of the time is that you can learn and you can have different perspectives and different. I know, like, a lot of the time when you and I talk about things, we have a very similar basis or thought process, but we use very different language a lot of the time. So even that is really helpful
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
well.
Yeah, and as a therapist, I think that's a lot of what therapy work is, and in your field as well, because you do a lot of emotional components of counseling as well. But I think that it isn't that you're telling someone the right way to do something, you know. I mean, yes, when you're coaching someone's strength and conditioning, yes, where their feet are, where their hands are, where, all of that's important. But in my work, some people say you don't really teach anybody. You're really just awakening what's already inside them.
Mm.
And a lot of that is reframing what you hear. So, like sometimes you'll be talking about something and I will share my perspective on it, which is really the same thing, but different language. And I think that feeds both of us.
I love that. I love hearing different language to things, and as a coach, that was something that I learned very early on, even in I mean, this is what I learned in the gym, where, yes, you are coaching someone maybe the best way to do something. I wouldn't say there's, like, one right way to do something, one wrong way to do something. In the strength and conditioning, that would be a whole different tangent, but if I cue someone in one way, they may have no freaking idea what I'm talking about and, like, repetitively will not do what I'm asking them, what I'm cueing
Mhm,
them to do. And me being able to cue them, having a toolbox of, 5 different other cues that could work for that person is tremendously beneficial for them and for me. So, as the coach, being able to have different language because people respond differently,
mhm, mhm.
comprehend
Yeah,
things differently.
yeah. And we think differently. I think a lot in pictures. Like, I get imagery all the time. When I'm sitting with a client, I will get an image, and it's often water or traction, like a car traction on the road. It might be I whatever. I'll just get a picture in my head, and I used to be like, "Well, that's not very theoretical," like, "That's stupid," and I learned that, people that I've worked with for a while know that I'll have imagery that comes to me, and 9 out of 10 times it lands it. 9 out of 10 times I'll share, "Well, what's rattling around my brain right now is this image of XYZ," and it's right on the money, and it speaks to them because they hadn't thought about it in that way, and that gives them something to take with them because now they've got an image.
Mm, yeah, I like that. I'm a personally learn way better in visuals. So my brain gets very lost if someone is like just speaking and I can't visualize something.
Yeah,
So
me
I
too.
know a lot of the time that you explain things, if I don't understand what you're saying, or I know a lot of the time, like when you and I growing up would get into it.
Locking
Um,
horns, yeah.
we'd be basically saying the same thing a lot of the time, just not not understanding, like, where each other was coming from. But when I can, like, kind of take myself out of it these days, because I think I'm better at this, and, like, when you explain things in visuals, I'm like, "Oh, okay. I get what
Mhm,
you're saying, and I'm saying the same thing, I'm just saying it like this."
mhm, mhm. Well, as an adult, you are already individuated from me. You don't have to prove that you're different than me, which is when you were young, you had to prove that. So,
That's so
actually, I'm curious, when would you, Meryl, say that the turning point was in our relationship? Because I have a very clear idea what I think it was.
well, I know what you tell people all the time, but and I would actually agree with this, is what eh, this is what I hear you tell people, and you'll
Okay.
tell me if I'm correct or not, is when I got my driver's license. When
And
I
and
had the
and
ability
your own car.
have my own
Right,
car, for sure,
right.
which shout out to mom and dad. Thanks, guys, for getting me
We
my
weren't gonna have you drive on our stick shift cars as not knowing how to do it, so it was gonna be cheaper for us to buy a used Saturn than to have you, screw up our transmissions, truth be told.
no, I love but you still didn't have to get me a car either. You could have been like, "Well, figure it out."
Yeah,
So,
I
I do
suppose I could
appreciate
have.
that. Yeah, I think that was a big thing, is, like, when I had space, in retrospect, because I think a lot of it was independence for sure, and just ability
Yeah.
to go do something out of my own choice, essentially. But I think
Mhm,
a lot of it was actually just creating space for myself, where I would say especially during that time, I didn't really know how to regulate my emotions. So being able to go and just drive with there were so many times that I would just go drive. Gas was so much cheaper then, but I would just go drive listen to music, think, and I think that that was something that really helped me where I had that space and I had that ability to do that versus
Yes.
feeling like I was stuck.
Right. So, okay, I'm gonna make a linkage here.
Okay.
Everybody is like, if anybody sees this, they're gonna just see how it goes with you and me. Um, so the linkage is, yes, I think it was just like you said, getting some space. And I also think it was um you're not you're not having to need me for transportation, right?
Mm,
So before you had your license and your own car, you needed me for transportation, or dad. You needed someone for transportation. And the fact that you didn't need us was really critical for you because you are someone, and here's the linkage, you are someone who never, ever wanted to ask for help. And that's one of the hugest changes I've seen in you over, the last, what, 15 years or 20 years, 20 years, is that you are willing to seek help, like you've gotten coaching, and you've had therapeutic conversations and you've gone to mentorship programs and all of those things, which, I mean, you wouldn't ask a store clerk where something was in the store when you were little because you did not want to need help.
yeah.
And I think that that's a conversation to have, is like, how do we manage our sense of need, and are we ashamed of it? Or do we see it as growth potential as opposed to being stuck and sort of frozen? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. But actually, I think like one of the first few episodes that I ever did was about how not asking for help isn't the flex that people think that it is. Because
I don't understand what you mean by isn't the flex.
okay, and let me bring you up on the lingo. So the flex being like this is something to be kind of like proud of. Like I don't need help,
Oh, okay.
right? Like I'm independent. This is like that skewed view of like I don't need help. I'm strong. I'm
Yeah,
independent. I'm
that's skewed pride and ego.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh, yeah, and this is, if you're listening like and I say this all the time, like ask for help. And this is something I still, although I am way better at it and have so much proof of asking for help being something that A doesn't mean that I'm incompetent. I think that's a really big thing. Like it doesn't mean that you're incompetent. It just means that like y- you would benefit from a little bit of
Mhm.
something else right now, right? Help
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah.
Um
Think
sometimes
about the pressure. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 you're fine.
Think about
I
the pressure that one puts on oneself by not allowing um, the feeling of I'm missing something or something could help me.
uh,
How many family arguments have there ever been in the world about you need therapy? I don't need therapy, like, or just the fear of starting that process of therapy or coaching or whatever, um, how we hold ourselves back and how shitty we feel about ourselves, but can't acknowledge it. Um, it's so liberating when you let yourself realize that you don't have to hold the world up. You don't
yeah,
have to. I had a trainer a million years ago who said, you don't have to push the Rocky Mountains. I haven't thought about that in a really long time, but like, stop pushing. That there's actually the whole Eastern philosophy that the strength is in yielding as opposed to keeping pushing through. And, you know, early on, my own personal experience, this is long before you ever came along, my own personal experience was yielding was being a doormat. Yielding
uh-huh,
was succumbing. And to learn that there's strength in yielding was so powerful. And I tried to teach that to you and your sister growing up, and I think you finally got it.
So, yeah, it is, like, learning how to yield, how to slow down, use the brake pedal appropriately as well.
Right.
I
Right.
think I think I'm finally getting that too, for sure.
No, it's you know what? It's I have to practice yielding all the time, you know?
Yeah.
With you, with your sister, with your dad, like with life, like this is a lifelong thing where, we are who we are. And the this brings us into what you and I have talked a lot about, and I know you've talked a lot about reaction versus response, and um, getting more comfortable with tolerating difficult feelings, or what I say, tolerating what you perceive as intolerable. It's hard. It's hard. And I think it's a lifelong process, but you get better at it.
Yeah. That's, I think, something that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, at least in my space, and something that I remind people of all the time is, like, you learn these things and you do these things, but they don't necessarily become automatic, and you have to still continue to do these things, and when reactivity is at play, that is almost like this big wall, and it
Yeah.
makes it way harder to do.
And we will have moments where we will do that till the day we die, right?
Sure. Yeah. I'm curious where you said that you had thought that yielding was being a doormat. Where do you think that narrative came from?
It's not nice to speak ill of the dead, but I had a very domineering mom, who, did her best. And, when I think about all the things that she did afford me as I was growing up, just like exposing me to theater and arts and ice skating and, um, taking me into the city to see dress rehearsals and ballets. And like a lot of those things were like super inspiring for me. But she was a very stubborn, headstrong person. And through my own therapy, in my, when I was around your age and a little bit younger, is figuring out that once I became an independent little person, or more independent, like once I started saying no, like 3 years old, once I wanted my own opinion, that's when the dynamic shifted. Because what I discovered through some therapy was that I could either have her and not have myself, my own opinion, or I could have my own opinion, but she would distance herself from me. So I could never really have me and her in a connected way. And I think that set me up for feeling like, well, if I yield to this, that means you win and I lose, kind of competition.
The rebellion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. And I remember my sister, who was 7 years older than me, I remember my sister saying to me, "Your problem is that you try and get mom and dad to approve of what you're doing. I don't even let them know what I'm doing. I just do what I want to do. And your problem, Marcia, is that you keep trying to convince them that it's okay. Stop doing that." So, and I did
Yeah.
start getting a little sneakier. So,
Yeah, we won't go in there. Um, we won't go in there. So, how are some ways that you worked with people in therapy who, because I'm sure that you had people come in for therapy that, like, didn't necessarily think they needed to be there or wanted to be there.
actually, most of the people that I see want to be there. They don't like what's going on in their lives, but they want and welcome the help. Where I used to see that reluctance that you're talking about is when I would see couples. And I don't see very many couples anymore. It's really hard work. I really don't like it. And usually what happens is um, one of the members of the couple says, "We need therapy," usually the woman, and usually the man doesn't want to do it. There are a few exceptions, but usually the man doesn't want to do it. And very often in the past, I mean, more than a few times, the guy would come in and agree to a session and be really hostile and really negative, and then say, "Well, I did couples therapy and it didn't work." And they would leave the marriage, and like a week later, they were living with someone else. So what does that tell you? They didn't ever want to be there, and they
Yeah.
had something cooking on the side. And, but, I don't see that very much. I see people recognizing that they need some help, and actually, um, a lot of it kind of begins to go into coaching. And what I noticed in since COVID, when COVID happened and parents had to have their kids home from school, I had so many young mothers coming feeling like they were terrible parents because they were irritable and anxious, and they weren't teachers, and some of them, worked outside the home, some of them didn't, but just managing the level of stress and anxiety that was cooking, they really needed parenting coaching. And a
Uh,
lot of them had very awful mothers or mothers that died when they were very young.
huh.
So they didn't have that generational assistance, if you will, or support. I guess that's a better word. They didn't have the resources and the support that, many, many people have. And I'd like to think you had. And so, coaching therapy, I do some coaching as a therapist. You do some therapy as a coach. There's this sort of, we're built to serve people's growth. You and I are both built to serve people's growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So a lot of what I think a lot of what the Venn diagram is between our work is you and I have talked about this of internal and external, and building awareness and building resilience and building tolerance and buoyancy. That's one of my favorite words, is
Yeah,
buoyancy.
I know you use that word a lot, and I love the visual that is attached to that too.
There's
Yeah.
some water there,
Yeah.
right? Or air. Yeah. Um, so, building resilience it isn't like mind over matter. Well, if I just understand this, then everything will be okay. It's because insight is just not everything. And, I learned that from my therapy trainers. I learned that as a parent of young children, that, you know, you can think that if you explain something well, it's going to be all fine. And it just doesn't work that way. You need to kind of go through it. And for me, if you can begin to be more aware of your internal reactions and responses, you then can expand the time a little bit to, in fact, respond versus just react. I mean, we all slip up sometimes, but the more you can build your own sense of how this feels to you and what your experience is and what your options are, like if you can sort of take a beat, um, again, it doesn't mean mind over matter, but it means, okay, I have an opportunity to just take a moment and consider my options, consider the effects on other people, and, as you would say, aligning with my values. Um, and that takes time and that takes practice. So that's a lot of the work and I know you're very, very interested in stress and illness, and really helping someone understand. Well, I was a dance movement therapist, so very, very much in the mind body experience long before that was generally accepted that the mind and the body were a closed loop system. I mean, really, it's only in the last few decades that the medical community recognizes that.
Yeah.
And so, I often just say to someone, where do you experience this in your body? You know, where, when you were talking with Laura the other day, about when you feel stress, you feel kind of like a tightening in your diaphragm, or you feel like your breathing is shallow, or your heart races a little bit, you know, there are plenty of times where I can feel like my heart begins to race, and I don't even know what it's necessarily about, but I can tune into it really quickly. And then I can do the breathing, and then I can relax the muscles, and then I can do all the things I need to do to try and mitigate it. And that stuff takes tuning in and giving it time. So I know you can talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I I'm glad you said that about resilience because I think a lot of people do think that and thinking that resilience is just a lot of the time withstanding things. Like,
Hmm.
oh, things keep hitting me and like I'm still here. And that to me is not resilience. And
What would
actually
you call it?
I I can't think of a word. Can you think of a word that you would call that?
Well, I can think of one word off the top of my head, which is persevering, but
Okay.
not necessarily persevering in a way, persevering in a survival sort of way, as opposed to a growth kind of way.
Yeah, which it can happen in for sure in both ways, but, I tend to see a lot of people are yeah, they're just, like, surviving through things. It's not
Yeah.
actually
Muscling
helping them.
through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so resilience, like, how I like to look at it is resilience is like, "Hey, you're in the ocean." We'll visualize it, right? You're in the ocean and waves are, gonna keep coming and they're gonna keep crashing down. So, you can either let them keep crashing down on you, or you can choose to peace out, or you can choose to get really good at riding the waves.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, it's, like, shit's gonna keep happening. We're human. And resilience is, like, returning to yourself, like you said, kind of, tuning in to yourself and being in a space
Reflecting.
reflecting, being in a space where you're like, "Okay, these things are happening," and, there's awareness there, and how am I gonna let that affect me? What am I gonna do about it? How can I respond to this? And that kind of grows capacity. It helps, um, us in managing stress levels. It helps
Mm,
us in being a less reactive human being and behaving in ways that are more aligned with our goals and values.
yeah. And even if you do get, you know, caught in the leg trap of reacting,
Mhm.
and, you're married a long time, I'm married longer, but
Longer.
long, long time. You get into shit with your partner, you get into shit with your siblings, um, even if you do sort of, it's like skidding on the ice a little bit, how you get back up. It allows you to go, "Well, I didn't really do that very well. Let me apologize, or let me come back to the person and try and buff off the edges some, as opposed to storming off and doing the silent treatment for 2 weeks, you know?
Yeah. So how would you suggest that people would I'd say 1, actually be in a place where they're pausing, that space in between reaction and response. How can people work on that and being more responsive versus being reactive? And then, as you said, we're all going to have reaction. Like that is actually probably the first thing that's gonna happen anyway. I don't know anyone that immediately goes to response. So, 1, just saying that, prefacing, like, you're gonna react initially. But what would be a method or something that people could do if they actually move forward in their reactivity. And what's not, like you said, oh, apologizing. Some people don't do that in the best way. And so what, like actually productive ways that people can do
Hmm.
that.
hmm Well, the first thing I would say is there's reaction and there's reaction. We're all going to have that reaction. But if we keep it inside for a moment and sit with it, or just take a beat, as I said, that's different than reacting out, which we also will do sometimes. But if we do that and we also have done the internal work, we're going to know that we don't like that either. So that will be easier to walk it back than if you don't do the work inside, the internal work. That sounds very fluffy, I know, but where were you going with this? What would I say for people to how to access that? I think I th- again, therapy 101. I think it starts with taking responsibility for your own responses or reactions, and instead of saying, you're an asshole to your partner or whoever, say like, I don't feel heard right now. That's a very big difference. And so therapy 101 is you make these I statements. You don't make you statements because you statements are just going to get someone to be defensive, you
Uh-huh.
know? Um, some other really simple things are letting the person that you're having this exchange with, let them know, like, I need you to really hear what I have to say hard. Can you try really hard not to be defensive and just take my words in?
Uh,
And would you be willing to not interrupt me? Would you be willing to let me just say my piece and then you can say your piece? That's a contract.
uh,
The other contract that's therapy 101, couples 101, and not even couples, any dynamic is I don't want your help right now. I just want you to listen, you know? Um, because a lot of us, myself included, we're fixers. We want to come up with the solution. We want to fix it. We want to help. We're built on helping. And it's really good when someone sets up the platform for you. Listen, I'm not looking for suggestions. I just want to vent. You say, great, go for it. And then when they're all done, you can say, by the way, I do have some thoughts and reactions and suggestions. If and when you want to hear them, let me know. And in my experience, most of the time people are ready to hear it then. Sometimes they'll say, I'll get back to you.
mhm,
So I think setting up the climate in a way that's externally and when you're dealing with another person, but setting up the climate internally for yourself, which is, I really don't like the way this is going and I'm really getting pissed off or whatever, or I'm really, really frustrated. We're going to have moments where we throw something. We're going to have moments where, we scream out an expletive. That I've got no problem with that. That's fine.
yeah,
But it's a matter of, how long you stay there and if you marinate in it versus going, okay, that was then, here's this one, that was then and this is now. Okay. So a lot of times what's going on in the now is really back from way back when. It's old shit that just has crept in. And if you can recognize it, oh yeah, this is, like you asked me, where was that competitive? Where was that yielding means succumbing and losing? If you can like set up the context of it, you've got a reference point. Reference points are really helpful.
yeah, yeah. That's the old narrative. What's the new
That's the
narrative?
old narrative.
Yeah.
Right. That's the old narrative. Right. And listen, it's important that we reflect on those things, but it's again a matter of whether we get um, stuck in the concrete there, like whether the concrete dries around our ankles. There's more imagery for you, like, or whether we can keep moving.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
sometimes staying put and reflecting is really important, and sometimes getting out of it and moving forward is really important. And I think that's true in, both our worlds.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There was, I was talking with Lauren, who you know and love too, about courageous conversations, and she had given me some great tools too for this, which was, if you're wanting to have a conversation with someone where you're nervous how that's gonna go and you don't want them to react in a certain way, then it's like prefacing the conversation with, "Hey, I am really afraid that you're going to feel XYZ, and that is not my intention with this." So it's, like, already kinda taking
Mhm, mhm,
down
mhm.
defense. I loved that.
Right,
So
right. Or similarly saying, this is really hard for me, but I want to share this with you, you
yeah.
know, because so much of the time, it's just easier to turn away from something and avoid something, but it doesn't usually work.
Mhm.
In my experience, it doesn't usually work.
Yeah.
Um, and again, not to sound too psychobabbly and cliche-ish, but there's avoiding and there's walking away from something that is important for you to walk away from. Those are different, and you're the only one who can make that decision, and that decision making is based on reflection, and that reflection is based on your ability to tune into what your experience is. And your ability to tune into what your experience is based on what you can tolerate. And if you can build that resilience to tolerate do hard shit, as you would say, you know?
Yeah. I I love that because I think those 2 things get very skewed for people a lot of the time, and they are very different. So, can you explain avoidance and why people avoid?
Yeah, it hurts, or it's painful, or it reminds them of other difficult times. Again, rear view mirror, you know. Uh, we all of no one listen. No one wants to be in pain, whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. We avoid it, right? Um, I had a therapy trainer back in Connecticut who used to say two things that I know I've said to you, but I think are so critically important. And one is everybody wants to grow, but no one wants to change. And one doesn't go, you can't grow without change. And change is stressful. Change is daunting. Change is part of the definition of stress is, when you feel like there's something going on that you don't have the resources to cope with. Change, even good change, is stressful. And then the other thing he said, which I love, 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 is um, people only change when the need is greater than the fear. Damn, right?
Mhm.
That's when people change, when your need is greater than the fear of doing it. And that's where the courageous conversations and the courageous conversations within yourself, too, not just with another person. That's where that comes in. So, I don't know, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but
It's
um,
okay. You're the guest.
I'm the
And
guest.
you're saying great things, so
Oh, phew. Thank you. Yeah. So, I think no one wants to be in pain, physical or emotional. Growth is difficult sometimes, and like you said earlier, the word that came to me was maintenance. Just like things just don't magically happen. And even when they do happen and you do grow, you still need to maintain it, right? It's mental health hygiene. And it's no different than, you could get like super strong in the gym and deadlift all kinds of weight and blah blah blah, and then if you don't keep it up, you're going to lose it. We get deconditioned physically and emotionally. So that's why I think people who, the research shows that in terms of cardiac health, the research shows that people in supportive marriages fare better. They have fewer heart attacks, they survive heart attacks, and they survive other cardiac events far better and for far longer than those who are either in very bad relationships or no relationship, because I think humankind is built for communication and we're built for connection.
Yeah. It's a
So,
basic
go
human
ahead.
need, right? It's a bit like a basic psychological need is community or relatedness, right?
Yeah. And sharing. People need to share.
Yeah.
It's like why everyone will come back from vacation and tell you about all the details of their vacation. Someone who just had a baby is going to tell you every gory detail of the of the whole thing. This is that people need to share. Part of who we are as humans.
Yeah, I think I just had this thought of like there's a reason why solitary confinement is a massive punishment.
Absolutely. That's why people go crazy.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
we saw like a layer of this during COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
You
interesting.
know, it's so funny. This is a whole other topic, and maybe we don't have time for it. But as I think back about the COVID times, other than the fear of getting sick, I don't think it was all that bad. I mean, there were parts of it that were really pretty nice because you could nest, you could sort of be home, you didn't have to go out and do all the things that we all have to do. I mean, it did get, I mean, you know, I don't live alone. If I lived alone, I might be feeling differently. If I had small children, like a lot of my clients, I might be feeling differently. I might be feeling a lot of cabin fever. I felt some cabin fever, but there was, with all the ickiness of it and all the fear and all the unknowns of it, there also was a little bit level of lowering the temperature and being a little bit more calm, I think, or peaceful, because we weren't exposed to quite as much stimulus. And maybe
Mm.
I'm whitewashing this, maybe I'm not remembering as well as I could, but
It's so weird because it's like there's a thought in my mind where I can put myself into situations during that time and been like, I'm never gonna forget what that was like. But then it was 5 years ago, over 5 years ago, where it was like, yeah, I don't remember the severity of certain things, but I do certainly know that there were, I think, some positives that came
Mhm.
out of it. Some of those positives and the growth was from some hard ass shit, at least personally for me. Um, but some of it was like, oh wow, like I got to connect and talk to people that I hadn't talked to in forever because like nobody was doing anything and people
Right,
were
right.
craving that. And, nature and outside felt like euphoria. It just felt
Yeah,
so nice.
yeah. So, I mean, I think the lesson out of what we're talking about is, and again, it relates very much to our stressful lifestyle. I mean, and now that I say that, let me take a step back and say, our bombs are not going off around us,
Yeah,
buildings aren't exploding around us. So our stressful life is pretty different than stressful life in war-torn
for
countries.
other
Okay.
people,
But
for
that
sure.
that being said, I think the lesson is try and find more of that balance of getting outside more, picking your battles, not over volunteering. A lot of times I'll say to someone, I can do XYZ, and they'll go, "Oh, are you sure?" And I go, I used to say yes to things I didn't want to do. I don't do that anymore. If I offer something, I'm willing to do it. If I'm not willing to do it, I don't offer it.
Mm, I like that.
That came with life experience.
Yeah, yeah. That's something I've been telling a lot of my clients recently. It's a conversation I've been having a lot is especially during this season, which I think there's just so much more demand,
Mhm.
is don't just say yes right away. Say, "Hey, let me check my calendar and I'll get back to you."
Mhm.
And then you can
Mhm.
like actually check in with yourself and be like, "Do I want to say yes to that or do I not want to
Mhm.
say?" to
Yeah.
that, or can I? Like, is my capacity, do I have space for it or not?
Right. Right. Well, the assertiveness experts say you don't need to give any reason. You don't need to apologize. If you don't want to do something, you just say, no, thank you, or that won't work for me.
Mhm.
You don't say, oh, I'm so sorry. I wish I could, but that won't work. You don't have to do all that. I think, we're nice people, so we do that stuff. But the assertiveness masters say, get out of that habit.
Yeah.
Begin to advocate for yourself. Like, that date just isn't going to work for me, or no, thank you.
Yeah, I've really been working on doing more of that myself, because there talk about old narratives is like, "Oh, I'm being rude," or "I'm not being helpful," or like any of these things that I don't wanna be.
Hmm.
If I say no, then that means that I'm being those things, which is absolutely not true, and a lot of the
Right.
times in my past, I'd be, like, abandoning myself if I said yes to things. I'm putting other
Hmm.
people before me. So it's like, that
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the narrative, it could just be like, "No."
Yeah. Well, that's if you want to get into, you know, lingo a little bit to a very minor degree, that's self-abuse,
Mhm,
you know? Or it could be letting other people abuse your energy,
mhm.
abuse your time. So again, checking in, seeing the internal temperature, like, what do I want to do? I mean, I know you talked about this the other night with Laura. What do I want to do? And if I
Yeah.
want to do it, great, I'll find a way to do it. And if I don't want to do it, I should find a way to not do it. And again, that word prioritizing. Prioritizing is a huge piece of stress management. Huge piece of it.
Okay, so I have talked about this on some episodes, but I would love to hear your thoughts on how can people do that? Because I think that can be such a chaotic place where people want to do all of the things. Another conversation I've been having with people is you can't say yes to all of the things. Saying
Hmm.
yes to one thing has to be saying no to something else. And a lot of time for people, that no is to themselves and it's to the things that support them. So, how can people like start to sift through and actually prioritize what matters?
Okay. Well, I- I'll give you, this is a very academic thing, but it's one thing I'll give you, which is a nugget. A huge piece of time management and stress management is prioritizing. And one of the ways that you can prioritize is to assign a letter ABC or a number 1, 2, 3. Actually, just ABC or 1, 2, 3, because you could have 5 things that are A category, A being your most important to get done, C being the least important things. Most of us, human nature is especially if we write things down, if we're list makers or box checkers, most of us want to cross a lot of the things off the list. So what do? We go to the least important things that take the
Mhm.
least amount of time, but they're not the top priority. So what you want to do is break things down into, let's say, ABC. A, top priority. This really needs to get done. There's a deadline. B, it could, C, the less important things, they should get done, but they're less important and they might take less time, which is why we want to go do them first. They might take less time. So it's really important to go, okay, what do I really need? Not what do I want? What do I need to get done? And how much time do I need for it? If I've got 10 minutes, yeah, I'll go down to the C list things. But if I've got something that's going to take me an hour, I know I need to carve out an hour. That means not doing those 4 or 5 C list things because that's going to take an hour. So beginning to, and I, being a very visual person, I say chart things. you know
Mm.
write it down and write an A or a B or a C next to it, you know and then you can even substrate it where you can go, okay, I've got these three A things, which is A1, A2, and A3. What's really the most important thing? And then the motivation, that's the discipline part. The motivation part is, how am I going to feel when I've completed this? And I know I'm speaking your language there.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just, that's not my idea. That comes from the guru of time management back in the 70s, whose name was Alan Lakein, Lakein. I'm sure he's dead by now, but this is what he did. And he also, interestingly enough, he used to say everybody should sit down for 20 minutes a day and not do anything, not meditate, not anything, just sit there, because you'll get so bored of just sitting there that you'll get productive. Which is, it's sort of a paradoxical thing. I've never done it, you know, uh, I don't sit very much, but yeah.
That's true.
So that's a thing you could do, like that prioritizing of, really kind of charting out, um, what do I need to do? What do I want to do? And if I want to do something, when can I fit that in that isn't going to sabotage the need to do stuff?
That's awesome. I love that, and I am going to use it
Awesome.
for
Good.
sure. So, let's talk about you a little bit. What are your priorities in life these days? What are your things that you're really focusing on that um align with your
I'm focusing on my physical health. I'm actually um, in physical therapy right now for some orthopedic issues that are cropping up. And I am going to the gym with my trainer. And speaking about cueing, he and I have such a simpatico sort of imagery and thinking. Like he'll say something and I'll go, "Oh, you mean blah blah blah," and I go, "Yes." Like, I'll give you a perfect example. We were doing like a kettlebell fast walk the grass track, the turf, heavy weight. But he said, "I want you to walk as fast as you can." And I said, "You mean like I gotta pee and it's gonna blow?" He goes, "Yeah, exactly." So, like, just finding that imagery. So now when he wants to do that, he'll go, "Yeah, the pee walk." So, um, um, so I'm focusing on not letting the orthopedic pain in my neck and my low back get too much of a head start. I'm accommodating in the gym, but I'm still going to the gym. I'm focusing on just eating better and better and better, and just staying well and staying healthy so I can ski and hike and walk. And I don't bicycle on the road anymore because too many friends have gotten really badly hurt, so I don't do that anymore. But I ski, and I'm just trying to keep up connections with friends, people who are really important to me. That's what I'm focusing on.
I love that. I love all of that. Yeah, I was hoping I feel like we're gonna have to do another episode at some point because there's so many things that we haven't talked about, but I did want to touch base a little bit on your strength training because this is something that I
You made me do it.
I made you do it. Yeah, I would love to hear your story of this and then I'll
Okay.
compare
Okay.
mine.
So I was a dancer and a bit of an amateur athlete, not as much as you, but a dancer, a dance therapist, very in tune with my body. I know my body. I know anatomy and kinesiology. I know physiology. And I always felt like, well, I really don't need to go to a trainer. And it wasn't like, the doormat yielding need kind of thing. It wasn't that. It was just like, yeah, I don't really need to spend that money. I don't really need to take the time. I can do it. Of course, I never did it. I never went to the gym. Um, oh, well, I'll just do it at home. And I never did it at home. And, I walk and all of that stuff, but it's not the same thing. So when you said, well, I'm going to, find you a coach, and you found me a coach. I truly thought I'll go 4 or 5 times, get some programming because I know how my body works and I'll be able to take it from there. And I think that was 6 years ago. And um, I, it's so interesting. We were just at the gym the other day, and, you know, there's one woman or two women that are older than I am, but most everybody's quite young. And there was this little QR code, like, upload your videos. Matt, my trainer, was there. And I said, "Oh, nobody wants to see my videos." And he said, or our videos, because I do video your dad and I video the other two people in the class that we do. And Matt said, "Oh no, you don't know how many people talk about your group." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "So many people talk about your group because they all want to be able to do what you're doing when they're your age." And I went, "Really?" And he said, "Absolutely. The people talk about you guys all the time in the gym, not just dad and me, like the group, the four of us. There's a woman she's probably 78. And there's dad, me, and a 39-year-old. So I call it the old people and a young person. So, um, but he
Which
said, yeah,
can I throw out how old you guys are?
yeah.
Because you just keep saying you're like, people need some reference here,
Okay.
and
We're
they
in our
can't tell.
70s. We're
Yeah,
in our
they can't tell by
70s.
looking at you because you look way younger, so
Well, that's good. That's good. Thank you. I've been very lucky. I've been blessed. So, yeah, we're in our 70s, and I almost never want to go to the gym. And then once I get there, I'm really happy I went, and then I'm really into it, and then I'm always really happy that I went. I never regret going. I just never wanna go, but I never regret going.
yeah, I welcome to the club, sister.
Yeah.
No, mom. Um, that
Sister mom.
sister mom,
Sister.
yeah,
Did you ever see that movie Chinatown?
mm-mm.
Oh, there's there is a scene that you should
Oh,
see it. You
okay,
should
I'll
watch.
write it
It's
down.
such an incredible movie.
Okay, I'll
Jack
write it down.
Nicholson.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, great. If
Chinatown.
anyone else has watched that and they're gonna, like, shame me for not, but put it on my
Oh,
list to watch.
it's fantastic movie.
Yeah, that's similar to my story. Yeah, I was like, I heard you saying over and over and over and over again, like, I'm gonna start strength training. I'm gonna start strength training, and I was like, all right, cool. You have an appointment for a consultation on Friday, and I so for those listening, my mom and my dad go to this gym called Total Performance Sports in Malden, Massachusetts, and it is it is an old
Grunt gym.
school
It's
strength
a
gym.
grunt gym. Yeah.
There's heavy metal screamo playing, like it is intimidating to walk in, and I I some reason at that point was like, this is it. And I feel very grateful that Candace, shout out to Candace, who we'll get her on the podcast at some point, but that
She's awesome.
she is
Awesome.
awesome, and that she was your coach because you guys just vibe so much and she is so knowledgeable. And I don't want people listening to think like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna be stuck in training forever." Like, this is a choice that you guys have made to do because it's so valuable for you.
And I know myself. The bottom line is I need the accountability of going to the gym. And I don't feel stuck. I feel like that allows me to keep growing, and like, I've got all the stuff at home. I don't have a cage, but I've got benches and kettlebells and dumbbells, and sometimes I use them, not very often. So I just know that I will become deconditioned. And I'm in my 70s, and I really would like to not ever end up needing a walker. I would like to not ever end up needing help getting out of a chair, And I think if I stay active, and I am blessed with a very good body, very healthy, strong body, I think I'll be able to accomplish that.
Yeah, I see it as you guys continuing to invest in yourselves because you value being independent and you
Mhm.
value strength and being able to do what you want to do,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
Strength training has been something that helps you do that.
Right.
So, I love
Well,
it.
I'll end this part of the conversation on this, which is back then when I said to you, "Oh, this is gonna cost like $6,000 a year," or whatever it was at the time, and you know what you said to me, it was so brilliant. You said, "Oh, yeah. Well, you could spend it now or you could spend it later in rehab, your choice." I was like, "Oh, of course." You could spend that in 5 days in rehab, so okay.
God.
That's what
Yeah.
you said, and that was the magic key for me.
Mm.
So thank you. I'm very grateful to you for that push.
You're
Very
welcome.
grateful.
I'll take that little win in my pocket for sure. I think that was like honestly, it's something that I think was one of the best things that I've ever done in general because I see you guys and um, I know it's hard and I know, like, dad complains sometimes about it hurting, which, again, welcome to the club, like, sometimes that hurts, but it's like, you don't know the alternative, like, where would you be alternatively? How much pain would you
Right.
be in? Like, all this stuff, so and I know that what I will say is I fucking love seeing people in their 70s lifting weights. It is so cool, and I could understand how there's potentially this standpoint of like, well, I don't wanna be the person who's old and lifting weights or whatever it is, like, I just wanna be the person that's lifting weights, and I don't see that as someone who's younger. I don't
Mhm.
see that as, like, an exception. It's not like, "Oh, they're old and they're lifting weights, but it's less than me," or anything like that. It's like, "Holy
Mhm.
shit, that is so freaking cool." And I think it's just
Yeah.
cool because of, again, attached to the values and, like, the deep reasons why people are in the
Right.
so, I love it.
So so just to clarify, because I said Matt was my trainer and Candace was my trainer. So just to clarify, Candace left the gym to go to a gym closer to her home. She was very, very far away from her home, and she has a teenage daughter, and she had an opportunity to do something different, a little bit closer to home. So her husband, Matt, is our trainer, and he's also very awesome.
Yes, he is.
And we're just, we're having a really good time doing it. So
I love it. Yes,
yeah,
shout out to Matt too.
shout out to Matt Buckingham.
Alright, so I think at this point, I'm gonna put you in the hot seat and ask you a couple questions,
Okay.
and then we'll probably bring you on for another episode at some point
Okay.
later. Alright,
Yeah.
cool.
Ask
Great.
away, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay, cool. Alright, what's one of your biggest pet peeves?
People who are entitled or intrusive on a very a very pedestrian level. I really get pissed off when people walk around the grocery store the entire time with the shopping cart and then leave it behind someone else's car as opposed to walking across the aisle to the corral. I just, to me, that just makes me crazy. That's one thing.
Oh, yeah. That is
I
well,
mean,
I will share the one of those pet peeves with you for sure.
yeah, I mean, I want to say, like, did you not just walk around the whole store? Can you not? So that's something that really annoys me. People It's parking lots. People parking in 2 spots when there's no spots available, that annoys me. Or people parking in handicap spots and then they get out and run to the store. That bothers me. I have others, but I can't think of them at the moment. I'm
Okay,
still stuck on the shopping cart.
parking lots for sure. You need to watch Cart Narcs videos if you haven't watched them before.
I have not.
Okay. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
All right. What's something small that wildly improves your day every time?
When the cat comes and sits on my lap. When the dog comes and chooses me to connect with, seeing flowers budding, blooming, looking at mountains, and having a FaceTime call with you.
Made the list.
You made the list.
What's something you do that you don't necessarily like to do, but you do it because it benefits you? You already said some one.
Folding laundry.
That is, I
Um,
that's a good
yeah,
one. I hate doing that.
I know.
And I hate putting it away even more. I don't know why, but I
I agree. I agree. I can fold it and leave it in the basket for a while and then shop out of there.
yeah,
So that's something. It's general house stuff, vacuuming, stuff like that. I don't really like doing. Um, I guess
eating
those are the
protein.
things that come to mind.
Yeah. I was like, eating protein.
Yeah, drinking water. Do you know,
So
Meryl?
annoying.
Meryl, there are so many times where we go out to a restaurant and all I want is the salad, and I really don't want the protein with it, but I get it because your voice is in my head. I really don't want the chicken. I don't want the shrimp. I don't want the fish or salmon. I don't want it, but I get it.
Your body thanks you.
Yes. Okay.
What's something that I did growing up that made you want to give me away?
Uh,
Oh,
you wouldn't wear a hat or what?
I'm like one thing.
One thing. um, you dressed oppositionally to the weather. So in the summertime you would wear sweats, and in the wintertime you didn't want to wear a hat, gloves, or a jacket.
Yeah.
Again, asserting yourself.
Yeah, I think that was rebellion, and I learned my lesson. If that,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
will dress the most ridiculous way in general, if especially if it's cold out, just to be warm.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
alternatively, what's something that I've done that made you like, "Yay, I did a good job as a parent."
Um uh seeing you talk about and espouse and promote a lot of the things that I tried to instill in you growing up, but you rejected, or you just weren't tuned into. Maybe you didn't even reject them, but you just like, you didn't have time for it or whatever. Oh, okay. That's its own separate thing. One of the things this is really the answer to your question, is when you meet someone like a friend of mine or someone new or a stranger to both of us, you are so present and you connect, you make eye contact, and you just are very present and you really connect. And I love that about you. I taught you when you were like 2 years old how to make eye contact. That you make eye contact when you talk with someone, and how you shake a hand, I see you have such ease, apparently ease, with when meeting someone you don't know, and that makes me very proud.
That's so nice. I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
I don't think
Thank
I have
you.
ever said it, so it's
I
really nice.
will also say, like, shaking people's hand, that was something that I believe was from something that you taught me from your dad.
Exactly.
That's like,
Exactly.
that is something that has stuck with me to this day where it's like, this handshake needs to be good. You need to connect the thumb parts, and it has to be, like, firm, no floppy fishes. No.
That was my dad.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Sometimes to the point where, like, I get a little aggressive and I forget how strong I am, and
Someone wilts. Right.
I'll forget someone's name because 'cause I'm so focused on shaking their hand
Yeah. Oh,
appropriately.
I'm really working on that a lot lately, really listening to someone's name when I
I
meet
have to
them.
repeat it. I'm like, "Oh, Bob. Bob. Nice to meet you, Bob."
Yeah.
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 Okay. What's one piece of advice you got in life that really changed you, and who gave it to you?
Um, be more patient and be more kind with yourself. Give yourself some grace. And yes, a number of people have, I can't really pinpoint one person that gave that to me, but I think that's something that just sort of was a rolling snowball thing. And the other thing is just really trying to appreciate each and every day. And they do go by faster and faster the older you get, but really trying to appreciate every day and find light in the day because I've had some premature losses of friends as early as, my college years. And, um, it isn't promised. And so don't take it for granted. So that's something that I think loss has taught me to appreciate. That was pretty serious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
okay.
What's the last thing you did that made you think, "Okay, I am kinda awesome."
I
You.
made a fantastic soup this morning.
Oh, yeah, your double batch of butternut squash
My
soup.
double batch of butternut squash soup. Yeah. Um, it's the little things like that, when I bake a really nice bread or when I make a really nice soup or, uh, I don't know, stuff like that. Just the little stuff. I like to notice the little stuff.
Yeah. You do make delicious bread and delicious soup,
Thank
so
you.
somehow, like, I gave you this soft sourdough loaf bread recipe, and you make it better than me, so
All right.
yeah. I know, I'm like, "Damn, I I
Yeah.
love that for you, but not for me."
Yeah, well,
Um,
I'm never gonna deadlift what you deadlift, so there you go.
well, it's different, but okay. Alright, and then finally, what does doing cool shit mean to you?
It means, taking risks that are not insane, pushing the edge of my comfort just a little bit, and then going, yeah, I did that. That for me is really cool. And a lot of times I will do something that ends up feeling really really cool, but it was a little daunting for me beforehand in the beginning. And that for me, and I think about skiing or I think about being in the gym, lifting something I really never could have done before, or um, laughing with people, really having a good time and laughing with people, or connecting really deeply with someone. It may not always be laughter, but just connecting really deeply. That for me is really cool.
I like that. It
How
sounds
about
like
you? I'll ask you that last question.
eh, I all of those things. I mean, to me, doing cool shit at the bottom line of this, if I was gonna bottom line it, it would be living in alignment with my values and creating a life. This is where I created do cool shit, was creating a life where, like, any day, as you said, nothing is promised, your future isn't promised. So at the end of any day, I can reflect on my life and think like, "Wow, I've done a lot of cool shit." And
Hmm.
that could be as little as, like, being kind to someone in that day and having a really nice unexpected connection, to deadlifting an amount of weight that I never thought was possible, like, any of these
Hmm.
things,
Hmm.
but as long as it is alignment with what I want for myself.
Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen, sister.
Alright, do you have any last words that you this is usually where I have people plug themselves. Do you want some Instagram followers?
Yeah.
I love that. No, not really.
I I I appreciate the opportunity. I wasn't sure where we were going to go with this, but I never know where you and I are going to go, and we always go someplace really cool. So thank you for this, and and that's about it.
Yeah. Thank you for being on. I know for the listeners, if you're listening, we've set this up this morning because we both had some free time and we are like, hey, let's just do it because again, usually we have conversations that I'm like, I think someone else could get something out of this too.
Mm,
Although I always get stuff out of when we chat. So
me too. Me too.
yeah. So
Alright.
thanks for coming on. Thanks for
Sure.
being an awesome mom. And
Oh,
I'm
thanks.
sure people listening can see the similarities. And if you're watching, I'm like looking at our faces next to each other in this, and I'm like, oh, people always talk about like, no, you're gonna become your parents. And when you're younger, you're like, oh fucking God. But at the at this point, I'm like, yeah, I kind of answered every time I like dance in the supermarket. I'm like, there she is.
Yeah.
And
Yep,
it's
yep, yep, there she is. Yeah, you
there she
used to
is.
say to me, "Ma," first of all, you used to say to me, "Don't dance at what are you doing?" And the second thing you used to do is again, supermarket, you used to say, "Why do you always have to talk with everybody?" And do you remember what my answer was?
No.
"It makes life much more fun."
Mm. Yeah, see, I'm like, yeah, that's, that's
So,
me now. So
there you go. Now that
and
you've got
I
some social graces, you can talk with
yeah,
people.
yeah, I don't really care about judgment that much anymore. So I, yeah, turning into your mom when she's cool is cool. So,
Thanks.
all right,
Alright.
um if you got something out of this episode, if you want to pass on a message to Marcia that I can do for you, make a comment or shoot
I
me a
mean,
message.
yeah, or, I am on Instagram, Margarita Marcia. If you do wanna send me a message, but I don't need you to follow me because I don't post much, but if you do wanna send a
If
message, you can do it,
if you
Margarita
want to
Marcia.
send if you want to send her a message or if you want her margarita recipe, then
It's damn good, right?
it's good, and I will put her info in the show notes,
Okay.
and I will tell her how to check her messages if she doesn't know where to get
I
the
know how to check my messages.
excuse me. Okay. All right, guys, until next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.